My name is Rachel. Currently, I live with my husband, Stefan, in an annex of my in-laws' house. No, I am the only one living in the annex of my in-laws' house. My husband, Stefan, lives in the main house with his mother and father. The annex was originally a small hut built by Stefan's grandfather, who wanted to create a private room as a hobby. Now, it has been turned into a house about the size of a room where I live. I was the one who transformed this house from a private room into a somewhat livable space. Ordinarily, Stefan and I lived in a regular apartment. About 3 years after Stefan and I got married, his parents, who adore him, suddenly said, "We really want to live with Stefan." Upon hearing this, Stefan also said, "I want to be with Mom and Dad too. As their only son, it's my duty as a man to live with them." Seeing their beloved son express such sentiments, Stefan's parents were moved to tears. Stefan, witnessing their reaction, was also deeply moved and began to cry. The three of them embraced each other, crying. I honestly felt taken aback by this scene. Stefan and I met at work. He was my direct subordinate when he joined the company mid-career. We got together after 3 years of dating. During those 3 years of dating, he lived at his parents' house. Perhaps that's why he and his parents both felt homesickness for their family. Stefan, who was pampered at home, had apparently never done any housework. When we started living together after marriage, he said, "Housework sharing? Sharing between whom? Are we letting strangers into our apartment?" Of course, I intended to divide the chores between Stefan and myself. But it seemed Stefan had never considered doing housework himself. What was problematic was that whenever I suggested sharing chores, he would say, "No, I've never done housework. I think there's a knack to these things." Even when I tried to get him involved in housework, he would fold a few clothes, get bored, and say, "This isn't for me. You're better at this, Rachel. You should keep doing it." Both of us were working, so I genuinely wanted to share the housework. Especially since I had a higher position at work, I felt even more strongly about this. But at the same time, having him help with housework ended up taking more time than doing it myself. So I decided it was less hassle to just do it all. Then, I started working from home. Stefan was probably surprised to see me at home every day. I explained that I wouldn't be going to the office, and he seemed to understand and stopped complaining about my lifestyle. Or so I thought. But he apparently hadn't really grasped what I said. Well, I would realize that much later. One day, several years into my remote work, Stefan's parents suddenly showed up at our apartment, started crying, and expressed their desire to live with Stefan. Watching the three of them cry together, I felt isolated and taken aback. And so, with Stefan's wish to live with his parents, we decided to move into his parents' house. Stefan always chose locations close to his parents' house, whether renting an apartment or selecting a company, so moving didn't mean quitting our jobs. In my case, I work remotely, so it didn't matter where I moved. And when Stefan and I started living in his parents' house, his mother said to me, "Thank you for taking care of Stefan all this time. From now on, I will take good care of Stefan. Rachel, please take care of everything else." Hearing this, at first I thought, "Oh, I don't have to do housework for Stefan anymore. Look at me. But I soon realized that what his mother meant was different. My mother-in-law's tasks were to make special meals just for Stefan, wash only Stefan's clothes meticulously, keep Stefan's shoes and belongings clean, and buy various things specifically for Stefan. As for everything else, that is, the chores for Stefan's mother, father, and myself, including cooking and laundry, were all dumped on me. Despite having worked and done the housework for both Stefan and me until now, I was now expected to do the chores for his parents and myself, on top of cleaning the larger family house. The thought made me feel disheartened. No matter how I looked at it, this cohabitation only seemed to bring happiness to Stefan and his parents, offering me no benefits. In fact, it might have even increased my burdens. My father-in-law approached me while I was cleaning and said,
Rachel, I have a favor to ask. Could you pay some money?
Money? Why? I asked. My father-in-law looked apologetic as he explained.
I intended to ask Stefan to contribute to the household expenses for both you and him. But, Stefan has worked hard until now, right? So I found it difficult to ask him to pay.
Stefan has worked hard? At what exactly? We had agreed to split the apartment rent, and we also shared other living expenses. However, Stefan often wanted me to buy things for him. When we went shopping together, he would sneak unnecessary ingredients into the cart or frequently include alcohol. He tried to get me to pay for clothes and accessories too. When I said, I'm not paying for that, he would sulk like a child denied a toy, calling me stingy all day long. I wonder how such a pampered man could have been raised. Other than housework and shopping, he didn't interfere with my everyday life, so I found it comfortable to be with him. I always thought that overlooking a few things was worth it, since he had no other issues. However, once we started living together, his good trait of not interfering in my life was nullified by his mother. Stefan, unlike his mother, never complained about my daily activities. However, his mother was relentless, interrupting my work at home daily.
Rachel, why are you holed up in your room when you haven't finished cleaning the house? Get to your chores right now.
She would barge into my room, tugging at my clothes. Because of this constant interference, I couldn't focus on my work at home. I talked to Stefan about this. Stefan, please. Your mother comes to my room every day, ordering me to do this and that. You never interfere with what I did at home, so I've been able to tolerate it until now. But if this kind of life, being disturbed by your mother, continues, I'll eventually get stressed and explode, I said, expecting him to take his mother's side and paint me as the bad guy. Surprisingly, Stefan listened and said,
Okay, I'll talk to her. There must be a compromise that works for both Mom and Rachel.
Stefan seemed most reliable to me at that moment. Little did I know that his idea of a compromise was to banish me to the unused, old private room. I asked Stefan if I could do anything with the hut, and he jokingly said,
You can even demolish it and build a new house if you want.
So I promptly began remodeling it to my taste. While I was busy transforming the hut with cleaning, renovating, and changing wallpapers, Stefan never once showed his face. Though we were married, it seems Stephen had no intention of living in the remodeled hut with me. I wondered if he had smoothly transitioned to living separately within the same household. Come to think of it, in that family living trio, I was the only outsider. There are times I was left alone at home when they went out to a barbecue restaurant or I had to work overtime and missed out on delicious meal altogether. Usually, such mean-spirited plans were concocted by Stephen's mother. It was probably her who wanted me out of the house, perhaps hoping I would quickly leave her son. But since Stephen told me that I could do anything, I truly did everything I wanted. I dabbled in DIY, installed new small shelves, and personalized the place. Stephen and his parents never visited the hut after driving me out, though they must know about my renovations. But it seemed like I was no longer family to them, and they had no interest in what I was doing. Moreover, Stephen's mother seemed to find me bothersome. Without Stephen around, I began to enjoy my life in the hut, almost like living alone. If I stay here, my mother-in-law won't be able to interfere with my work. I've also installed new locks and focused on my security in my renovation, so no one can sneak in while I'm away. Not even Stephen or his parents. That's why I started to think, maybe an in-home separation isn't so bad. However, it seemed my mother-in-law had anticipated me saying, "I can't stand this treatment anymore. I'm leaving." So she became desperate to get me out after I started living in the renovated cabin. Her petty harassment began. On garbage day, she would leave trash in front of my cabin instead of the collection site. And sometimes, she'd have barbecues in the garden without inviting me, sending the smell over to my cabin intentionally. I couldn't help but smirk at such mild attempts to drive me away. Then, one day, my mother-in-law summoned me to the main house.
"There's leftover meat and potatoes. Come and get it,"
she said. But I knew there had to be something more, so I went. When I arrived, only she was there, and she placed a single piece of paper on the living room table. It was a divorce paper. There was no smell of meat and potatoes, so the real reason she called me was obviously this divorce paper. If his mother told Stephen to submit it, he would do so without thinking. All that was left was for me to agree on her, and Stephen and I could get divorced just by submitting this paper to the city court. His mother showed me the divorce paper, looking quite proud, and said,
"Isn't it about time you gave up? There's no reason for you and Stephen to stay married anymore. Get out. You freeloading unemployed."
"What? Are you sure?" I was taken aback.
"Of course, I'm sure. We'll manage fine without you."
Hearing this, I felt thrilled. I eagerly asked to take the divorce paper, saying, "I'm going to the city court right now. Thank you so much." My mother-in-law, who had expected me to resist divorce, was dumbfounded. I submitted the divorce paper at the city court and started packing my things immediately. Thinking it was necessary to report back, I went to the main house and told her, "Mother, the divorce has been processed successfully. As for the cabin I renovated, I'll leave it as it is. Feel free to demolish it or use it as you wish." I was so positive about leaving that even my mother-in-law was surprised. However, seeming happy that I was leaving, she smiled and said,
"He might be tough from now on, but good luck,"
as she watched me pack. On the day I left, Stephen and his father seemed to find out I was really leaving, saying,
"Are you really going?
and
What will we do without Rachel?"
but I just smiled and said, "Yes, thank you for letting me use the cabin. But since there's no point in being married anymore, and we're divorced now, all that's left is for me to leave." Then, as I was organizing my belongings, I completed my move to a luxury apartment that I had been arranging. I thought living in the cabin was fine, but I wanted to live in a luxury apartment, so I decided to buy one. Not long after, my mother-in-law called me.
Rachel, I need to ask you something."
She began awkwardly. I responded cheerfully. "What's up? How's the cabin?"
"I'm using the cabin right now. About money. Father said you were giving him $3,000 a month. Is that true?"
"Yes, it's true."
"But you weren't working, right?"
She had called me an unemployed freeloader, so she probably thought I wasn't working. That didn't surprise me much. Why did you think I wasn't working?
"You were always at home, and Stephen said so. He said you suddenly quit your job and have been at home ever since, not working."
I knew that my mother-in-law misunderstood and thought I wasn't working. But I wasn't taken aback to learn that even Stephen thought I wasn't working. Suddenly quit my job? I haven't quit my job.
"But you left the company you were both at suddenly."
That's because I became the president of a new company, setting up a remote work system.
"What?"
I sighed in disbelief. A husband should at least be aware of his wife's promotion. But then again, considering his attitude since we started living together, it seems he never really thought in terms of as a husband.
"How much do you earn?"
Including my side job, roughly about $2 million.
$2 million?
Maybe I exaggerated a bit. It's just a hassle to explain the exact figures.
With that much money, could you lend us some? Actually, Father was laid off and he kept it hidden. We've been managing somehow with the $3,000 you've been giving us. Neither Stephen nor I knew about it.
It all made sense to me now. My father-in-law has said it would be pitiful to ask his own son for money. But those words were just a pretense to get me to pay. He probably heard from Stephen that I was his superior at our former company and assumed I had money. And so, they were swindling me out of $3,000 a month under the guise of living expenses. In the end, I didn't mind too much since it allowed me to live peacefully in that quiet cabin. Well, I'm divorced from Stephen now, so I don't have any connection with their family, right? When I said this, the mother-in-law begged.
That's not true. To me and to Stephen, you're still like family. Come back to us.
What? No thanks. I immediately declined. I could hear her surprise over the phone. But why would a couple who lived in home separation get back together? Getting back with Stephen would bring me no benefits. I could see myself being used as an ATM again. Stephen and I are now complete strangers. It's creepy to keep calling me family, so please stop. Besides, you were the one who dropped me out, right?
Well, that's...
I'm really enjoying my life alone now. This is pretty much the same as when I was married. Mostly living alone.
Then...
But when I was married, I didn't spend money on myself and had $3,000 taken from me every month. Yeah, I like my current life much better. Goodbye then.
Wait, Rachel!
I ended the call without hesitation. I couldn't fathom why they thought I would return. But for my mother-in-law, it must have been a last-ditch effort. In fact, Stefan's salary wasn't that great. He had a habit of saying,
I can't do it.
and passing off work to others, a trait he displayed in our personal life, which he also showed at the office. Consequently, he was deemed unreliable and remained a regular employee without any salary increase. On top of that, with his father laid off and his mother being a housewife, they couldn't maintain their large house and ended up selling it. Now, the three of them are living in the cabin I renovated. It's just right for one person. But for three people in that crumpled space, it must be quite uncomfortable every day. Since then, I haven't thought about them and continued to live peacefully.